I was firstly a part of the MGP program during my mains preparation.
I have been a part of ForumIAS for a long time,
which I had joined at ForumIAS.
ForumIAS.
The MGP.
So the MGP plus answer writing test series in this year 2023.
MGP is a pretty renowned name now. Over the last few years, it's just been increasing.
The mains guidance program.
mentor guidance program.
Also MGP, I think, especially the model answers I found to be.
Good morning, class. What have we been discussing in the last class? Foundational values of civil services. So in the last class, we started with the foundational values of civil services. We said that, why are they said foundational? Because they are at the core of civil services, and we said that just like they are as crucial to civil services as a foundation is crucial to a building. And if those foundations are weak, then the building strength is compromised. Similarly, if those principles or values are weak, then the civil service as a body polity, or as a professional organization, it shall remain weak, isn't it? We also discussed that civil service has been called the steel framework of the country. Why? Because it is that the civil service of India, through the institution of the All India Services. What is All India Services? It includes the three services, that is the Indian Administrative Service, the Indian Police Service, and the Indian Forest Service. Also includes medical services and engineering services. I am not aware of that aspect actually. This is three that I am aware of. These are identified at All India Services. And so basically these services once are of a all India character, where recruitment is from all over the country, and they have been given to serve in several state cadres, and they are under the ultimate control of the central government, but the direct control of the state governments. And these because they form a part of a single civil service. They are not differentiated on the lines of the states, but they form a part of a single civil service. So therefore, they act as a structure to which the whole nation is bound together. For this reason, after India got independence, these institutions were not given up. And Sardar Patel famously remarked that if the union has to survive, then the civil service must remain. Then we also saw with respect to standards in public life, said that there always has been an effort to delineate what are those principles or values that are crucial to public life. Isn't it? In this regard, an effort was made by Prime Minister John Major in the United Kingdom in the 1990s. In 1994, the Nolan Commission came up with this report, which gave 7 principles or standards in public life. These principles, ever since they were enunciated by the Nolan Commission, have become a benchmark for identifying what values or what principles are important for public service and civil service throughout the world. So no major administrative reforms body has published a report without quoting the Nolan Commission's 7 principles. So we will take one by one these principles, isn't it? One by one these principles. I also, the reason why 1990, all these steps were being taken were because the 1990s, initial years of 1990s saw a major shift in the dominant ideology that guided the world. Before the 1990s, as I said, there was what we call a bipolar world, where most world leaders had 2 ideologies to choose between. One was state-led socialism or communism, that for which there was a successful model USSR, which were also a major global world power, and the other was liberal capitalism of the Western kind, which had its proponents in the United States of America. Both these models were there. The second model preferred a free market economy and a receded role of the state. Let the markets be free, and they are best to decide. And the first model was banked on state-led planning with a huge bureaucracy, a large state, and a large role for bureaucracy to bring in socio-economic development. Socialism in the early 20th century, that is the 1920s, 1930s, was a very dominant and successful ideology, because the first communist government was actualized, which was until 100 years back or even 50 years back, which was only theorized in papers or in essays or in revolutionary writings, was first established by Vladimir Lenin in USSR. So therefore, a lot of great leaders from India were inspired by the model of socialism. And you will see some great thinkers of those times. For example, M.N. Roy. He was an early socialist leader, and it was he who mooted the idea of the Constituent Assembly for the first time in around 1934. But socialism had its own limitations. You must be aware that Mr. M.N. Roy was an early socialist and radical, and later when you study M.N. Roy, you study him in two parts. One is early M.N. Roy and the other is later M.N. Roy. Early M.N. Roy is a socialist. He's a communist leader. And later M.N. Roy is a humanist and anti-communist. All right, completely changed his ideology and philosophy. In India, as we discussed in the previous class, the bureaucracy was seen as an agent of social change, and we had an expanded bureaucracy. There was less faith on the market as an institution for socio-economic development for several reasons. One was that we did have a colonial fear of being enslaved, either by powerful nations or by powerful companies, given that we had once been enslaved by a powerful company known as the East India Company, for example. All right. Apart from that, there was also it is in India's DNA, there has been certain elements of distrust for business, what is often called the Jagat Seth syndrome. The Jagat Seth syndrome we have done earlier in business ethics, where it is often said that the wealthy will, for their narrow self-interest, will compromise on what is national interest. So there is so also because there was a lack of capital within the country. So we felt that market as an institution may not be able to deliver what is needed. So the very first few developments that have been done by the state, leading to what is called vast powers for the bureaucracy. I also discussed that the Second Administrative Reforms Commission, in its opening essay with respect to the 10th report, it has said that in Russia, while bureaucracy spread from Western Europe to the further east, I said that in Russia, it did not lead to an efficient form of government. Why? Because bureaucracy, in the absence of what? Accountability and a vibrant civil society, is unable to keep itself in checks and balances and expands. Bureaucracy as an institution is known to create work for itself. Bureaucracy as an institution is known to create work for itself. So, all right. So now we'll take one by one some of these principles that have been enunciated by the Nolan Commission. What is leadership? What is, okay, can you tell me what is one quality essential for leadership, if at all? He is the one who takes initiative, okay, fairly. Leadership quality, if he is an initiator, I mean, it is in a crowd, you will identify a leader when somebody is willing to take an initiative. So that's one quality. It is his influence, okay. So it is his ability. Leadership, okay, one line we can say that leadership is the skill or the quality or skill to influence others. Influence others to do what? Powerful, it is ability to influence others and enlist their services to accomplish a task. All right. It is enlist the services of others to accomplish a task. But still, if I were to ask you, what are some qualities essential for leadership? Emotional intelligence. Social intelligence, okay. The one who? So it has been difficult to delineate. It has been difficult to objectively state qualities of leadership. Why it is very difficult to objectively state qualities of leadership? Because for every quality that a leader has, For every quality that a leader has, there are a lot of people who have the quality but are not in a leadership position. For every quality that a leader has, there are a lot of people who have those qualities but are not in a leadership position. Second, there is a difficulty in arriving at leadership qualities. The second reason is that for every leader who has built his leadership on that quality, there is a leader who completely lacks that quality. There is always a leader who completely lacks that quality. You may say that Gandhiji's leadership quality was because he preached truth and non-violence. The world is full of leaders, violent leaders. For every quality of leadership, there is always somebody who does not have that quality. You'll say, sir, as one of our friends in the class, student said that he is able to take everyone along with himself. Then you have somebody like Winston Churchill. One man with a plan and he is able to get everybody to follow the plan. Does not believe in democracy at all. Or did not believe in Gandhi for that matter. One of the staunch opposers of Gandhi, in a great man, but still one of the greatest leaders of 20th century. Why? One man with a plan, he was able to win Great Britain victory in the Second World War. Winston Churchill. You must have heard of the famous speech, we shall fight on land, we shall fight in high seas, we'll fight in the skies. And a very great speech given by Winston Churchill. Why? When the British were all surrounded from fascist forces, Germans, he was able to rouse the spirit of the British army. Great leaders have been there who have been able to rouse the spirit of the British army. And he's given a lot of credit for winning victory for Great Britain in the Second World War. With his leadership skills. Not very accommodative in nature. Not a person of sabka saath, sabka vikas. Not at all. So therefore, that has been always a challenge, isn't it? But if you see, there is, with respect to leadership, there are two theories. One is the great man theory, which means that leaders are great men, but it believes that leaders are, yes, they are born and not made. You cannot made leader, they are just born like that. Leaders are born, not made. So in short, the great man theory believes that leadership is about nature and not nurture. Not. You can't. This theory believes that, you see this theory, you can say in a lighter vein that this theory says that if you put a clown in a palace, the clown does not become a king, rather the palace becomes a circus. Right? So you can say in lighter vein this. So therefore, see, leadership has the conventionally, if you see, conventional leadership has been known to be a male territory. That who can be great leaders? Only men. Conventionally, it has been seen as a male territory. High on ethics, on morality. Also, with leadership, what do you need to be? High on ethics and morality. Conventionally, it is believed about these things. That great leaders if you see, what do you think is just among the great leaders whom you see today, whom you identify today? All right, what is one common thing that you see or one essential criteria according to you? Somebody said that he should be taking everyone along with themselves. Yes, that will be one. It is if you say that leaders need to have, for example, some qualities of leadership. Qualities of leadership. While there is no objective list, but we broadly believe that leaders, one quality that all leaders generally have is charisma. One quality that all great leaders have is charisma. They are also effective, yes, communicators. They have good communication skills. Apart from that, we can also say that they possess social and emotional intelligence. Why are leaders kept at a pedestal higher than the other people in the organization or in the hierarchy? Not so that they can govern others, but because it is believed that leaders must also have one more quality, and that is prevoyance or foresight. They should be able to foresee things. Prevoyance or foresight. You should be able to see what is next challenge that is going to come. That is very important for leadership. They are able to predict that what is the new challenge that is going to come. If you see, in the past few months, we had the emergence of what is called a very artificially intelligent chatbot known as ChatGPT. And then what happened is, it was believed that the leadership of Satya Nadella, who was heading Microsoft, two Indian Americans leading the two biggest IT giants of this planet. One is Microsoft, the other is Google. These are IT giants that have shaped, their technology has shaped behavior on the planet, right? It is difficult to do business, to conduct day-to-day life without using their technologies. One is Microsoft, the other is. So these two major giants, and they have been led by whom? Indian Americans, right? So therefore, it was seen that the leadership, and on the other hand, in Google you had Sundar Pichai, led by Sundar Pichai, who's leading a company as big as Google. So it was felt that Google has lost its leadership position. But then Google has now come, and then certain mistakes were also made. The advertisement which Google came out with, promoting its own chatbot, that is Bard, showed the chatbot giving wrong answers. Right, but today if you see, Bard is catching up pretty fast, slowly. All right, so it is very important for leaders to know where to channelize their energy. They should have prevoyance or foresight. Aage kya hoga? Why do you think that there has been so much investment in these chatbots so that they can right now you're seeing these chatbots intelligently reply to a chat? You think of it. Just 2 years back, if you rewind the clocks back, in the field of technology, what was the battle going on for? It was going on for voice assistants. Just 2 years back. Which is a better voice assistant, Alexa or Google's Echo? Now, the debate there is dead, and right now the focus is on ChatGPT. But do you not see that the final winner will be somebody who's, on one hand, Alexa and Echo Dot, they are learning day-to-day behaviors by speaking continuously to people. On the other hand, ChatGPT is evolving by scrolling through the internet. What is the future? The combination of two of them in next 5 years, which will give you an artificial companion who can intelligently talk to you, right? Another setback to the institution of marriage and companionship. And if it will bring a massive shift in how society operates. Two people not willing to get along well together, but they are very compatible with an artificial. Then probably a humanoid with the Alexa Dot installed will probably do, right? Because you will find that that person, that artificially humanoid figure is able, it is able to relate to you better, and it is able to understand your emotions better than any other human. So therefore, likely combination in next 5 years you can see, isn't it? But anyway, so therefore, all leaders have to have the prevoyance or the foresight as to what is going to happen, how changes are going to come to society, isn't it? And therefore, that is very important for organizational survival, if you see. So these are some qualities. Apart from that, all right, today if you see the classical theory, the behavior, classical theory said that, or the great man theory, this is also known as the classical theory. But in modern times, we also have the behavioral theory or modern. It is more accepted in modern times. It believes that leaders can be, yes, leaders can be made. Leaders can be made by appropriate training. can be made by appropriate teaching training. Can be made by teaching training. So therefore, they believe that it is not just nature, but both. Yes, nature may have a role, but nature plus nurture also plays a very important role. Nurture is upbringing. You will see that often in any social situation, you will see that there will be certain leaders in any social situation. So therefore, there is another attribute that we can make. There is something known as functional leadership. What does functional leadership mean? Functional leadership simply means that leadership belongs to whom? Belongs to one who is performing the function. One who performs the task becomes the leader. Okay? One who performs the task what happens is when young people, when they think of their career, they always have this feeling that I can only, and commonly in your 20s, you will always have this feeling that getting a good tag, name tag, such as one of the great, getting an I before the 3 I's that exist in this country, right? What are the 3 I's? The IITs or IIMs or IAS is the key to career success. But what happens is, this is commonly believed in your 20s, and you will suddenly realize as growing old or with experience, you will realize that actually you will see several organizations where people who have had the best educational qualification, they may not rise to leadership positions, and instead will be always led by people who may not have the same academic brilliance that they may have enjoyed. Why? Because a lot of times leadership will accrue to a person on the basis of functional leadership. Because they are performing a certain task, so therefore they become leader of the situation. And then they become leaders of the organization. Isn't it? Because they perform a task and they perform a very crucial task in a social situation or within the organization. And therefore they will become leaders of the organization. Isn't it? Today in our country, it is famously said that a tea seller went on to become the prime minister of the country. Isn't it? A tea seller went on to become the prime minister of the country, climbing one ladder after another successfully. Isn't it? So therefore, functional leadership says that one who performs the task becomes leadership. Leadership exists, if you see. Leadership qualities are not only at the top. It does not mean that leadership qualities is only at the top of an organization. But it can be located anywhere in the organization. It can be located anywhere in the organization. It can be located anywhere in the organization. It can be at the bottom rung of the organization. When you will go for your district, you will suddenly realize that a lot of districts, every district, there is a district collector and there are different departments. You will often see that the collector, to successfully run the district, will be dependent on 3 or 4 people who will be his leaders. And those leaders will be of different levels. One of the leaders could be the 3 or 4 people with whom he will work. Will be one person can be a deputy collector. There will be at least anywhere between 5 to 18, 20 deputy collectors. I'm not talking about district magistrates. I'm talking about deputy collectors selected through the state services, State Public Service Commission. Out of the 15, 16 deputy collectors, maybe 2 or 3 will have leadership qualities. So the district collector will quickly identify who are the leaders who know how to manage situation, who know how to get things done. What did I say about leadership? It is the quality to enlist the services of others and accomplish a task. So they know that there are 18 district collectors, but one who is having the worst department, Matsya Palan, in a state where there is no lake. He is the most capable one, but he has not got an opportunity. And one beauty with the district magistrate's office is that he can give any department to anyone despite the state posting. The state may have given you transport department, but the district collector, if he is not happy, that he can take away that department from you. He can give that department to ye matsya palan wale ko de dega wo. That is one power that he has. He can relieve you of his duties within the district. All right, even if the state has transferred you in a certain position. You will remain the district transport officer, but you will not go to office. That one, few powers that they generally have. So you will see that one, he will be banking in this department, he'll be banking on a certain deputy collector. In this department, there'll be certain deputy collector. And in the last department, you will see that the deputy collector is not very competent and there is a Bada Babu. And he will be the most efficient person. And he'll be banking on that. He knows that this person knows how to do the works. He will never call that deputy collector who's handling that department. But he will call the Bada Babu of the department, because in my district, I had a wonderful experience of working with a department which had a deputy collector who was not having leadership, and there was a man in his 50s, and he has disabilities. Both his legs did not work, so he used to crawl on the floor. He generally crawled on the floor, and he was a very efficient manner. Whenever I used to need a letter for something, he exactly had a complete record that this is the letter that we drafted in 1971. This is the letter we drafted in this. So if you have to get a letter drafted, you will ask the deputy collector, can we draft it? He will say, मेरा हिंदी माध्यम है, नहीं कर पाऊंगा draft. And if the letter is supposed to be in English, you call up this person, he will say, sir, I also don't know English very much. For example, for any communication with I also don't so much, but ये draft है मेरे पास, इसके basis पे you can draft another letter. So you have the template, isn't it? You have the template. So therefore, very efficient for any work. How it is to be done, don't ask anyone, you ask that person. He would crawl on both, and it was not a good situation. He would wear slippers on both his hands, like people in villages do, or rural areas do, and he would come crawling on his two hands, because he had paralyzed below but extremely efficient person. You know that in his department, the single department being run, they will have 18 staff, but only he is the one who actually will do something everybody else is not so useful, lacks leadership. Right, so leadership will not belong to leadership is assigned to the position, but may not belong there. It will belong to whom? One who performs the task. And there will be several places where there will be a DDC or ADC and a district collector. So functionally, the district collector is supposed to be the main person. But often you will see the commissioner or the secretary will tell the CM, sir, in this district, don't speak to the DM. There is no point speaking to him. You call the DDC. He is the person who is effectively running the district. So those situations will be there, isn't it? You will often have IPS officers who will have a DSP who is better able to manage, understand. If there is a ROIT, the IPS is not able to understand anything. There will be a DSP who better understands. He has done ROIT control like anything. So therefore, the DGP will directly bypass the SP and tell the DSP कि आप ही को देखना है, and then call up the SP and say कि जो कहेंगे सो करिएगा. Because he has worked, the DGP has worked for 20-30 years. He knows which officer is how competent. He knows that this person, this DSP will take a decision on the fly. He will immediately take a decision for ROIT control. And this young IPS, he will not know what decision to take. Therefore, he will switch off his phone. And to avoid responsibility, very common situation, that what do? You switch off your phone so that nobody, so you said that हमसे पूछ कर नहीं किया, ताकि आपकी जिम्मेदारी नहीं हो. All right, so therefore, it can be located anywhere in the organization, not necessarily at the top, isn't it? See, leadership, if you see leadership quality in civil services is very important. Leadership in civil service, extremely important quality. Why? It is said that it is sine qua non, without which, it is a sine qua non for civil service, without which it is difficult to effectively render service in the Indian context. Why? Because civil service in India has an expected role. What is the expected role that is given to civil service in India? As agents of social change. As agents of social change. as agents of social change. See, the difference from the welfare bureaucracy that we have today versus the classical model of bureaucracy that was exist in Great Britain, where they are not supposed to be agents of social change. There is a huge difference. Why they think of, if you see today's situation also, when you will be going to the services, you will suddenly realize that a circular has come from the central government or the state government. The central government wants to implement or get open defecation free villages. That is what under the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. Now, what is the expectation from the government or the Prime Minister or the National Parliament, which is talking about Swachh Bharat Abhiyan? Isn't it? What is expected from it? The expectation is, from this is that the Parliament will call a meeting of all the MPs, members of Parliament, and he will say that you go and speak to the people in your constituency and talk about the importance of Swachh Bharat, the importance of not defecating in the open, the importance of building toilets. But in the Indian context, the circular will come that every month the district magistrate must go at least once and stay in the village, where he should go and talk to the village people about Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. Right, where you should be talking to the village people about not defecating in the open. Do you see now, in no other country this dissemination and enlightenment role is given to the civil service. It should be the job of whom? The public representatives, because the people have voted for him. The people have voted for him, and he's the leader of the people. The civil servant is not effectively the leader of the people. He's simply been posted there. But then why he's supposed to go and talk to the villages about open defecation free villages? Because in the Indian context, it was believed that, or the civil service was entrusted with the role of agents of social change. You will see that not public representatives, not MLAs and MLAs, MPs and MLAs, they will not go and sit and go for a midday meal and eat a food or a meal made by somebody who's from the Dalit community. It will be the district collector who will go and have meal in a midday meal school, which is cooked by people from, for example, Dalit communities, for which there is a boycott. Those who are not getting the context, midday meal mein, there is one challenge that you often faces. Let us say there is a village which is having forward community people. So what happens is, midday meal is being cooked. So for that, some people are hired. And what happens is, the people who are hired, they may be from different communities, including the Dalit communities, the depressed classes. And some of these people may be treated as untouchables by the village people. So in such a case, what happens is, when the children's parents come to know that my child is having a food that is touched by the Dalit members, so they boycott the midday meal and they start complaining. It happens in every state in India. Right? In such a case, how to break that social taboo? It is expected. Ideally, what should happen is that this should be the role of the MLA or the member of parliament, because he is the leader of the people. He represents those people in the odd 545 national parliament. He should go to the village and talk about, and he should sit with the children and eat, showing that there is nothing impure about food cooked by people from depressed classes. But that role in India will be performed by whom? By the civil servant. You will hear that district collector went and sat और उनको बोला specially आप मेरे लिए खाना बनाओ, and they made food for the district collector and he consumed it and he said that there is nothing wrong in it, and therefore to try to break that social taboo. So do you see that why in the expanded role of civil service is also that of a change maker? This does not happen in any other part of the world. In any other part of the world, the state administration will go and simply arrest the wrongdoers. They will not be supposed to make slight. They will not try to have, why? Because civil service does enjoy a role model status in our country for whatever reasons. Isn't it? So it enjoys a role model status. And then what will the staff tell the ladies and the parents who are aggrieved that their children are being fed by food that is touched by the untouchables? The staff will say कि जब collector साहब खा सकते हैं तो आपको क्या दिक्कत है? Do you see how this is being done in our country? How we are trying to break social taboos and how we are trying to... So that is the role that of change makers that is entrusted to the civil service in our country, uniquely so in our country. So therefore, if you see, Yes, several instances are there, both in Gujarat and in Bihar. In Bihar, Rahul Kumar was there. Which district? In Bhagalpur. So he went and had meal in Bihar, District Magistrate Rahul Kumar. He went and had meal in the midday meal school just to break these social taboos. There are leadership styles. All right, so there are different leadership styles. One is an authoritarian style, and the other is more democratic style of functioning. Broadly, we said several styles are there, but these two broad styles are there, that they are more authoritarian leadership style, which means that what I say is the rule of the land. And there is a more democratic style of leadership where there is a lot of consultation and discussion and debate. And Rockefeller, लिख लो इसको. Rockefeller said, good leadership is showing average people. Good leadership is showing average people how to do work of. Rockefeller said, good leadership is showing average people how to do work of superior people. Good leadership is showing average people how to do work of superior people. Then Andrew Carnegie's quote, very famous quote, and very important to understand what leaders should do is, no man will make a great leader who wants to do it all himself. Who wants to do it all himself. सारा काम खुद कर लेंगे. All himself. Or get all the credit for doing it. Or get all the credit for doing it. Yes. Use this quotation in your case studies whenever there is a question that requires you to have leadership qualities. Isn't it? So what does this quote or this line tell you? This line tells us, with respect to leadership, what quality does it tell us? The importance of teamwork or team spirit, the requirement of appreciation of work done by others. Appreciation of work done by others. Yes. MP Foley also said power, I think power with rather than power over. So it is. Come again. So that is also a style of leadership. All right. Martin Luther King also gave a statement. Martin Luther King said, a great leader is not a searcher of consensus. Martin Luther King said, a great leader is not a searcher of consensus, but a molder of consensus. Not a searcher of consensus, but a molder of consensus. Leadership is again important in civil services because their expected role is wider. Second is that they have a, yes, that the challenges of socio-economic development, plus poverty eradication is so huge. It is a huge task. The challenge of socio-economic development, samajik arthik vikas, and poverty eradication is so huge, such a huge task, right? That it requires the state officials to go beyond duty. कहोगे 10 बजे आएंगे, 5 बजे बंद करेंगे, चले जाएंगे. Does not work out. Why I'm saying this? You are going to be future administrators of a country where, on one hand, the country is talking about, right, sending man to moon. That is the aspirations of the country, that will be sending our, in an Indian spaceship, sending a man to moon and perhaps to Mars. We are talking about how we can build entrepreneurs, and on the other hand, the state is also entrusted with the task of telling people to wash their hands with soap after defecating. That basic level fight is there. You think of it, that on one hand, this is one challenge before the country, that you are talking about how you can raise entrepreneurship in the country. On the other hand, there is also the task before the state. Do you see the level of challenge? तो इसको यहाँ से कि भाई wash your hands after defecation, and you have to take him to be making an entrepreneur. Such a big gap. Therefore, if you will say that I will just do my duty, then there is a trouble. So therefore, what will be needed? The level of challenges of socio-economic development, the level of ignorance and poverty that exists, that state officials need to go beyond their duty. And that is why leadership in civil service will be needed to inspire staff members to achieve or to implement government programs and policies. You will need to inspire them with dedication, isn't it? Can you think of some good leaders in civil service? One very good is E. Sridharan, Metro Man of India. What was his achievement? Delhi Metro completed the project before targeted time. Huh? So yes, it was, no, before that, yes, Delhi Metro was easier for him because he had already built Konkan Railway. So why he was chosen for the task is because he had did the Konkan Railway project. The Konkan Railway project, where does it lie? It is on the western coast of our India. So if you take ever a train from Bombay southwards to Goa, Goa ही समझ में आता है सबको, उसके नीचे भी है, Udupi is also there. उसके नीचे भी जगह है, Udupi, and also you have to build a train track. What is the challenge? The Western Ghats. So sometimes the railway track runs parallel to the coastline. You are sitting in your train and you can see the beach, and sometimes you will have a tunnel. Why? Because you have to dig through the tunnels, dig through mountains. So he had successfully implemented this project, and then he was given the task of implementing India's first metro project. That is the Delhi Metro. First modern metro project. नहीं तो लोग कहेंगे कलकत्ता में भी है या था, but वो अलग system था वो. Right, the tram service in Calcutta. It is still there? All right. So Delhi had a metro system, so he was brought in. So these are examples of leadership. He had set his rules for working, and he was able to expeditiously get convergence of all the leaders. Municipal, there are three tiers of governance consensus you will need to get from the people, from the municipality or the municipal governance leaders. Mayor and councillor, everybody has to be happy with your work. The state officials have to be happy, and you have to also take along the central government officials. All three levels of bureaucracy you have to deal with. All right, but this man was able to deal with them very effectively, and enlist the services of bureaucracy of all the three levels, get support from all the three levels. Isn't it? You think of one of the greatest leaders, not in civil service, Mahatma Gandhi. Why Gandhi? Yes, able to rally the masses. The unique, one of the greatest leaders of the 20th century. That he was able to make the Indian national freedom struggle movement a mass movement, getting the participation of both farmers and women. Or for example, you can also take the example of Parameswaran Iyer. Parameswaran Iyer. This man, formerly a member of the IAS, left IAS, then he was called back for the implementation of what? Swachh Bharat Abhiyan by the Prime Minister. You see the kind of dedication, he is also an example of dedication in public service. So he said that one of the easiest way we can make Bharat Swachh, one of the ways we can make Bharat Swachh is by, so one idea that was floated in meetings that happens in cabinet meetings or when brainstorming is happening, different ideas will come. For example, one idea, when we were working, one idea was floated is that there will be community toilets. Right? Do you think community toilet is a good idea? It's a pathetic idea. Huh? It's a pathetic idea. It's not going to work. Sulabh Shauchalaya is difficult to keep clean, where you have to pay for a fee. Think of, and this has happened in our country. Several times initiatives have been taken, and what will happen is tenders of 10,000, thousands of crores will be floated. All over the country, in rural areas, they'll make community toilets. And then nobody will clean them and they will be dead. Right? So therefore, toilet ownership, to keep toilets clean, what should be there? Private ownership of toilets. So therefore, the government came up with incentive schemes with respect to building pakka toilets. So therefore, he proposed a very simple technique, the twin pit. Twin pit toilets. And what did he say? Twin soak pit toilets in rural areas. He said that there will be twin pits. And from a very famous picture of Parameswaran Iyer is there. So what he said that there are two pits are there. In one pit, the toilet excreta is accumulating, and after a certain duration, I think it is in 70 days, not 5-6 days, I think that will be longer. I think 30 days or something, but very less period of time, the excreta turns into fertilizer. And he went with the district collector, and he actually picked up the excreta that had gone through the process, that had become fertilizer after 30 or 40 days. अब सोचो तुम भी ऐसे डिस्ट्रिक्ट कलेक्टर हो, वो कूद गए इन द ट्विन पिट्स और कहेंगे देखो ये तो खाद बन गई है, और तुम भी परेशान हो गए, अब तुम्हें भी. ही इज अ वेरी सीनियर IAS अधिकारी, वेरी सीनियर ही वाज, एंड ही इज हैविंग द डायरेक्ट मैंडेट फ्रॉम द प्राइम मिनिस्टर ऑफ द कंट्री कि भाई इसको करो, यू गेट दिस डन, यू डोंट हैव टू वेट फॉर एनीवन. वो कह रहे हैं आप तुमको भी आप भी लीजिए, अब तुम परेशान हो रहे हो, भाई 60 दिन पहले का है, क्या पता पूरा खाद बना है या नहीं, अलग टेंशन में हो. राइट? बट वेरी फेमस पिक्चर ऑफ हिम. Right? That will require. So what is also, that is also the promotion of scientific spirit. He's saying by 60 days mein it is fertilizer, means it is, it's not a bogus claim. It's not ki halka halka ho jayega. So he's saying that scientifically I can prove that this is complete fertilizer. Its biological composition is the same as that of organic fertilizer. Right? So very famous picture. उनकी photo आई थी उस समय. Promoted the twin pits, twin pit toilets. Why did he promote the twin pit toilets? Because after that he knows big challenge. The गांव वाले क्या कहेंगे कि भैया सफाई कौन करेगा? Manual scavenging is already banned in the country. Manual scavenging, and nobody will have gear and come up for the cleaning. So therefore, government schemes need to have certain coherence with each other. One scheme should not lead to problems of another, should not get into conflict with other schemes, isn't it? Or other law. Now you tell people that you make a toilet, they will say, sir, who will do the cleaning? You will say manual scavengers are there. But then you will realize that manual scavenging is banned. You will say कि gadget लगाओ, और then they will say इतना खर्चा नहीं करेंगे. तो तुम बता रहे हो कि भाई there will be twin pits, you can clean it yourself. All right. Or for example, Lee Kuan Yew, right? I think this is the spelling, Lee Kuan Yew. No, it will be Lee Kuan Yew or Yew. Yes, the founder of modern Singapore. the prime minister a few years back was compared to him. Because this person, Singapore, like any country along the tropics, everybody knows what is the tropic, the equator. Singapore ke through what passes? No, equator passes or something else passes. Equator pass karta hai Singapore se. So therefore, one problem with being an equatorial country is that you will be hot and humid. रूम पे जाओगे, AC जैसे बंद होगा, you'll sweat like anything, और बेहोशी सी छा जाएगी. Especially if you are having an exam, you will feel more sleepy, and once exam is over, you'll not be able to get sleep. Exam जब से होगा, नींद बहुत आएगी. Hot and humid climate, that is the perils of it, right? So therefore, and people did not have. It was an agricultural society, Singapore. As you see it, it was not at all like that. Just like somebody will be shown picture of India, that how we were carrying our rockets on cycle and bullock cart. That was a very smart move actually. In US, they will have a separate research wing. They will make a separate kind of vehicle just for this transportation. And India, if you do something like that, somebody is seeing from the satellite. At least they knew that if we are going to launch long back in the 70s and 90s, they knew that we have to carry it in the bullock cart. Why did we carry it? Apart from other reasons, we knew that nobody will, the Western powers looking from the satellite will never think that they will carry it in a bullock cart. तो तेज तरार होना भी बहुत जरूरी है. So therefore, founder of modern Singapore, he used to say, he was the one who started giving guidelines to people, like he started preaching people that this is how you should greet other people when you meet them. This is how you should maintain hygiene in public life. This is how you should maintain hygiene in private life. He was all in favor of the air condition that you are having right now. He said if Singapore has to develop, then it must be air conditioned. So Singapore has hot and humid climate, you can't work there. And so therefore Singapore में हर जगह AC का अगर ये, तो he was very clear about these things. That यहाँ पर without AC we cannot, nobody can work. Then they will move to temperate latitude where you will be efficient and you will be working better. Labor productivity if you need, then you need air conditioning. All right, anyway, so he was one leader who brought massive social change in Singapore society. He brought massive social changes in society and led to the modernization of Singapore. Let us take another objectivity. What is objectivity? Objectivity simply means that decisions should be made, yes, should be made based on facts and data. Decisions should not be made on the basis of prejudice or a certain stereotype that you may have made. Purvagrah ke basis pe. It should not be based on any prejudice. It should also not be stereotype. It should not be based on certain ideology. Or a bias. It should also not be made on the basis of emotions. It should also not be made on the basis of emotions. But most likelihood, how we will make decisions? On the basis of emotion. You see, when emotions control us, it's called emotional hijacking. We are controlled by what? Emotions. Whenever you will get a case study on where you are likely to make a decision on the basis of emotion, and actually you are going to follow the law, then make this diagram. समझ में आ रही है बात? And when we control our emotions, then that is known as emotional intelligence. केस स्टडीज में अपने जस्टिफिकेशन के लिए बनाओ. Your arguments are very important. So objectivity entails that we make decisions on the basis of facts, figures, data, not on the basis of prejudice or emotions. Objectivity should be basis on facts and figures. Yes, अभी करते हैं इसको. Objectivity entails that we take expert advice or technical advice or expert advice. We have to be objective. There is this famous line that the design of an aircraft cannot be decided democratically. नहीं तो लोग क्या कहेंगे, थोड़ा और मजबूत बना दो ताकि टक्कर वक्कर लगे तो मेरा एरोप्लेन डैमेज ना हो. अब एरोप्लेन तो ऐसा बन गया लेकिन उड़ नहीं पा रहा है. राइट, बिग प्रॉब्लम. कुछ कह देंगे लेग स्पेस ज्यादा दे दो, कोई कह देगा पंखा ऊपर लगा दो मेरे. राइट, सो देयरफॉर इट्स फेमसली सेड, राइट, सो देयरफॉर है ना, टेक टेक्निकल और based on technical and expert advice. See, if you see, objectivity is difficult to always have objectivity. It is difficult to always be objective. Why? Why is it difficult to always be objective? For several reasons. Because emotions, yes, emotions as well as biases as a part, both of these are part of human psychology and basic nature. Decisions in reality will always be guided mostly by emotions. And it is, yes, they come in conflict. आगे करेंगे इसको. Conflict of empathy or compassion with law or with objectivity. All right. See, it is further difficult in civil service. It is further difficult in civil service. Why it is difficult in civil service? It is further difficult in civil service. Why? See, public decisions are inherently political. Any public decision are inherently political. Public decisions are inherently political. Any public decision, whether it is cleaning Delhi's drains, it will immediately become a political issue. कौन करेगा? Which drains will be part of MCG, the other will be made by railways. तो अब कहेगा, now railways will say that now we no longer, it is being used by the, there was a, think of it, बड़े सारे parts of Delhi where there will be a railway bridge made by railways 100 years back. Now railways has completely given up that bridge. No train is passing through. It has been replaced. It is either defunct or a road is running. Now MCD will say that we will not clean because we have not made it. It is not our property. It is railway property. Railway is saying we don't have any matlab with it. Right? Several challenges. Every question in public space will become a political question. Should we, for example, to fight Delhi pollution, should we put a ban on stubble burning? Isn't it not a political question? Though it is a matter of simple facts. Should we follow the odd and even rule for the use of four-wheelers? Again becomes a political question that cannot be decided by an appointed person but by an elected person. Right? So therefore very difficult to have objectivity. Then also because decisions can also have impact or can also have impact on self-interest. You are an official who has to decide on the even odd rule. So you say that one day even, one day odd. You have two vehicles in your house. Both of them are even numbered only. अब तुम्हें लग रहा है एक दिन गाड़ी की दिक्कत होनी है, घर में झंझट होगा. Right? Also, there is difficulty in civil service because there is a case for compassion in public service delivery, or there is a strong case for compassion. You cannot simply say I was very objective in my approach, because there is a strong case for compassion. सबने कहा ठीक है, वो तो ठीक है. Where was your compassion? Where was your empathy? It is also not possible to have standard operating procedures for every situation. You can't have a standard SOP for every situation. So therefore, some discretion is unavoidable. And the minute you have discretion, discretion is unavoidable. The minute you have scope of discretion, there will be lack of objectivity. If you see Nolan Commission, Nolan Commission said that objectivity should be there. Objectivity must be there in awarding public contracts. Awarding public or government contracts. In making government appointments. In making government appointments, recommending individuals, यहाँ पर लिख लो CST, Case Studies Toolkit में, recommending individuals for awards and benefits. You are a district collector, a rich man wants to get his son admitted to a government school and wants your recommendation, or to Sanic school and wants government recommendation. Then you do mention Nolan Commission requires that, tells that objectivity entails. Objectivity must be there in recommending individuals for some sort of awards or for certain government benefits. And Nolan Commission said that choice must be based on merit principle alone, सिर्फ merit पर. On merit alone. Objectivity significance, see, is the AC lot cold? एक बार बोल देंगे. Yeah. ठाकुर भैया को बोल देंगे जो है. Regional inequality is happening in class. Some people are getting more of it and some people are getting less of it. Whereas the distribution of public goods such as air-conditioned air should be based on the principles of equity and objectivity, isn't it? See, it is needed. Objectivity is needed in public service because to have rule of law and not, yes, rule of men. If the decision is based not on the basis of rules, but depending on who is going to make that decision, then we do not have objectivity, isn't it? To make public service impartial and, yes, fair to all. It has to be fair to all. To fight against injustices, injustices in the system such as nepotism, favoritism. एसी का वेंट ऊपर की तरफ करिए, देखिए. Fight against injustices such as nepotism, favoritism. And it is important to have what is called a professional civil service. A professional civil service. How can objectivity be promoted then? To have a professional civil service. How can then it be promoted? How can we promote objectivity in decision making? Yes. Code of conduct and standard operating procedures clearly defined. करना क्या है, कैसे करना है, what is to be done and how it is to be done, it has to be clearly defined. Then clear enunciation of public policy. कि हमारी पॉलिसी ये. Clear enunciation. This is the public policy on which basis we will be granting spectrum, we will be granting coal. Then best practices domination, where it is not always possible to have rules. So therefore, best practices documentation. That these are the best practices to follow in such situation. Then digitization of records. Records must be digitized to aid decision making using MIS. To aid decision making using management information systems. We have very good MIS in the government these days. For Manrega, the dashboard that you will have, for everything, almost everything, you have very good MIS, management information system. It is so terrible these days that in the central secretariat, by looking at a certain website, you can know which secretary has come to office and who is bunking office today. Right? Like in private sector, you are aware that in private sector, you carry a RFID card or an ID card, and therefore when you scan it, you have the biometrics or the card. Now that has also been implemented successfully in the central secretariat. And there is a public screen where you can see कहाँ पर किसकी बत्ती हरी और किसकी red है. So who is there in office and who is not there in office. See, imagine the amount of public pressure that will be there. Otherwise, नया season आया है किसी Game of Thrones का. तो क्या हो गया, नए बच्चे हैं secretariat में, सोच रहे हैं आज bunk मार के. Why? Because secretary is not there, nobody will come to know. The senior is not. On which grounds? नया सीजन आया है, उसको भी पता है, जो सीनियर है उसको भी पता है कि नया सीजन आया है. He is also thinking the same. हाँ कि वो कैसे निकले. But now there is biometric attendance digitized. The Prime Minister can also see which secretary is having low attendance. Right? MIS in Manrega, you will see you have a very well developed management information system. You will know that which block is the most underperforming and what are the reasons for that underperformance. Earlier, what was the system? You had an Excel. Right now itself, as civil service aspirants, you can't handle an Excel file. That Excel file you would have like 50,000, 80,000 entries. तो open करने में computer में बहुत time लग जाता था पहले. But the National Informatics Systems now has developed MIS for all of it. The number of beneficiaries in governments, the amount of public data is extremely voluminous. You will never have encountered a 7 GB or a 6 GB Excel file. But that will be the size of the file. Alright, having 50,000 records. Earlier, extremely challenging. तुमको देखना है कि इस ब्लॉक में कहाँ पर now collate the data in Excel. अलग कोर्स कर रहे हो Udemy पर कि how to master Excel in 3 hours. So now all those management systems are, या फिर you will get a physical record. Physical record was to be maintained that in which block, which panchayat, how much payment has been done in for the case of Manrega. Now everything is in MIS. You will see the dashboard, you will log in, you want to see any block, any taluk, you will immediately get all those things. So therefore it becomes a lot objective. Otherwise what happens is, there will be different political pressures, pulls and pushes of democratic politics will be there. Elections are coming, the MLA or the MP will regret कि उधर मनरेगा ठीक से चलवा दीजिए. These things have all finished right now because there is DBT, direct benefit transfer, which means money is directly given in the bank account. But earlier, yes, there was a cash payment system. So therefore, when your MLA and MP is saying that इस area में मनरेगा चलवा दीजिए, उसका मतलब कि यहाँ कुछ पैसे बंटवा दीजिए. आप चाहेंगे तो हो जाएगा. आप कहोगे सर इट इज नहीं कर पाएंगे, तो अगली लाइन क्या होगी? बोलेंगे सर आप चाहेंगे तो, अगर आप चाहेंगे तो जरूर हो जाएगा. हाँ, बताओ क्या तरीका निकाले हो, बताओ. हाँ, No, so earlier what happened is there are several ways where the local or the government also tried to fight that how do we, the big problem in the government was that every year you are giving Indra Awas or every year you are giving a government benefit and every year the same beneficiary is getting it, one who is related to the Mukhya. Right, that was a main problem. So for example, some states, MP Chhattisgarh, they started that. So what is the same house and it is a pakka house and every time what is happening, he is close to the public representative or to the local bureaucracy. Every time he is taking money under Indra Awas, once he has, I have taken under my name, next time I have taken under wife name, say that she's, next time I have taken under the elder son's name. So what happened is, so government is, ऐसा नहीं कि लोगों ने दिमाग नहीं लगाया. So MP government, what they decided was that outside the house, if you have taken Indra Awas, then they will write मैं गरीब हूँ. ठीक है, मैं गरीब हूँ. So now the thing is, you think of it, the people who are of dominant caste, secretly they are taking all the money. But what will happen is now when you have to write, then they will not take the benefit. Right, status symbol. And the poor are not getting the benefit. The poor are telling कि आया ही नहीं पैसा इस बार. This time the money did not come. So the government was very clever. Government started doing this, the state government initiative. Then we also have a lot of liberal people here. Way back in, I think this was sometime over 10 years back. So what happened is massive protest started happening in JNU that how it is demonizing the poor. That was not the purpose. So pictures were posted in national media, Times of India, Hindu, everybody posted pictures outside. So what they will do is they will go to the, as a bureaucrat, you will also see that how biased the media is. That whenever you think of solving, you know that by implementing this in your district, immediately ghost beneficiaries will disappear. No well-meaning dominant person who's showing himself as a, having a Scorpio vehicle in his village will start outside, right, his house, मैं गरीब हूँ. And similarly, the money will be left, so therefore it will go to the real beneficiary. तुम बहुत दिमाग लगाकर कर रहे हो. You are doing pilot in your district, but what will happen? अगले दिन तुम देखोगे your district pictures are posting, and you're getting a call from central secretaries कि भाई what is happening in your district? ये नया दिमाग कहाँ से लगाए हो? बोला sir, in the cabinet we have taken these guidelines and we are doing it as a pilot to remove the problem of ghost beneficiaries, right? And here what has happened, immediately they will start writing article about you demonizing, that this is a scheme to demonize the poor. In this country, is it a crime to be a poor and whatnot? So 3-6 months ke andar those schemes disappeared. But then by that time we had, and as of now we have a pretty leak-proof jam trinity, the Chandan Aadhaar mobile trinity. It is a pretty leak-proof actually. And as our friend suggested that the Mukhia is sending his own bank details, so that is possible. No, so now the thing is, once it is a bank account has been linked to Aadhaar once for all. So one is happening that one is linked for all, then for all payments it is being paid to the Aadhaar. So now even with respect to Aadhaar you can get the direct payment. Just the government will put your is Aadhaar ko payment karni hai, and banks are seeded with Aadhaar. Are you aware of this? Everybody's bank now, if you open it, they are seeded with Aadhaar. So the government will say, I need to send money to this Aadhaar, and they will get it in the right account. There have been certain malpractices, but every time, because of a strong MIS, this is being exposed. I'm aware of what you are saying. So there are a lot of people who are implementing this and who are always tracking this. So kai sare aise block level pe inquiries have been done anyway. So what else can we do? Digitization of records, strong management system. Then with respect to previous antecedents, or you could say previous precedences, previous precedences of decisions or policy. Must be digitized plus easy retrieval should be there. Must be digitized plus easy retrieval should be there. See, in government, one of the ways we make decisions is that we say that what is the precedence? What has been done before? Agar kisi ka hua hai to, you are coming for a gun license, very happily, everything is meeting, and suddenly the collector who has to sign the gun license, he realizes that you are not going to use the gun, you will give it to somebody else. You will take the license in your name. So this happened when I was working. I remember one person had applied, he did not have a thumb, and he could not hold a gun properly, and what was the purpose? The purpose was he will get a gun license, somebody will use it, and if there is a crime, it will be said that how can he shoot? And the person who has given him the license will go to jail. That how did you give the license when that person is not able to shoot properly, right? So all these challenges will happen. Anyway, so therefore, you should have previous precedents of decisions or policies. They must be easily accessible. They must be documented easily accessible. Yes, transparency and openness in decision making. Transparent. You can always write in any answer, absolutely. In any administrative ethics answer, you can write this word, which was I never begin with it. ठीक है, transparency and openness in decision making. Yes, it is a separate quality that we'll discuss. Then another thing is how to promote objectivity is the principle of collegiality in decision making. What is the principle of collegiality? Yes, decision making should be done by a collegium, not by an individual. Principle of collegiality in decision making. So we will have more objective approach. Then further use of information technology, IT, use of IT to reduce discretion. Use of IT to reduce discretion. Use of information technology to reduce discretion, to have more automation. See, having too much objectivity, also there will be challenges to objectivity. It will also come under a lot of criticism. See, objectivity is antithetical to It goes against, it is antithetical to good public service delivery. Too objective, कि सर बहुत objective है, ठीक है? For example, the problem that we faced is Aadhaar needed for rations. Technically, people who can't get an Aadhaar made are the ones who really need probably the rations, isn't it? क्या क्या लोग उसका operators. Yes, because again user friendliness is not there, so don't expect a lot of, you are filling up UPSC form, NIC is making that form, not some external vendor. You will always have some problem uploading the photo. Sometimes some problem or the other will happen. Slowly we are moving towards computerization and digitization. Don't expect a very good user interface, or some changes will be there which is needed to be made, but it's not being communicated to the top. It is antithetical, it goes against good public service delivery. It also means if you are too objective, it goes, or you could broadly say that it goes against compassion and empathy, which are important for good public service delivery. Decreased discretion. Discretion is not there. There is decreased discretion. It reduces administrative capacity to deal with extraordinary situations. Decreased discretion. What does it do? It reduces administrative capacity to deal with extraordinary situation. कोई नई समस्या है, discretion है नहीं. So administrative capacity to deal with extraordinary situations is, it makes public service inhuman and machine-like. It makes public service inhuman or dehumanized. It makes public service inhuman or dehumanized, machine-like. Machine-like. Then it leads to policy paralysis when new decisions are to be made. It leads to policy paralysis when new decisions are to be made. Then objectivity may ensure niti but not nyay. It may ensure niti but not nyay. What is niti and what is nyay? As conceived by Amartya Sen? Yes. Niti and nyay. Niti is what is called procedural justice. Your procedure is just. Nyay is substantive justice. Niti is or justice that is delivered. Substantive justice or justice that is delivered. Everybody understands procedural justice and substantive justice? Procedural justice and substantive justice. So basically what may happen is, when you try to be objective, when you try to be rule-bound, then you may follow the procedure, but it may not lead to, for example, when you deny a person who does not have Aadhaar card, you deny him or her ration, then you have probably done procedural justice, but you have not done substantive justice. So niti had been followed, the right policy has been followed, but nyay still has not happened. Okay? Niti and nyay, make sure you use them in your conclusions, at least in one answer across all papers. Amartya Sen argues with respect to niti and nyay. Amartya Sen When there is excessive focus in an organization on objectivity, then there is nobody is willing to make a decision. So that often leads to policy paralysis. When a policy is to be made or a decision is to be made for which there is no precedence and there is an excessive focus on objectivity, then it leads to slowness or laggardness in making policy or making decisions. The decisions are not being made. Why? Because there is an excessive focus on objectivity. All right, so therefore nobody is willing to take decisions. And why? They are not able to take decision because there is no precedent, there is no written down basic rules. So decision is at whom? As whose discretion? Your discretion. In such a case, what will you do? You will not want to make the decision, leading to policy paralysis. This is resolved by yes. So that decision is that is the whole reason why policy paralysis will happen. That you are looking for instructions from the top. So the principle of subsidiarity is not being followed. What is the principle of subsidiarity? Every problem must be solved at the level at which it should be solved, and not escalated to a higher hierarchy, and should not be accelerated to a higher hierarchy. It should be solved at its own level. अपने स्तर पे solve करिए. One challenge in states which are not having a good local self-governance. In fact, only in communist states you have strong local self-government. What will be the challenge before the district administration? In a remote village, hand pump ही लगना है तो district collector से ही होगा वो. It has to happen at that end. So do you see, you will be pareshan solving very small problems. You are ending up solving what? Municipal problems. You are ending up, see, this is the challenge that the country faces. A lot of people, we have gotten a third tier of governance, but there is a general sense of apathy towards local self-governance among the people itself. If Delhi is having lot of clogging or is having urban floods, we immediately want to blame the highest office in the country. We'll start with the Prime Minister and the Urban Development Ministry. Then somebody will tell it is not their job. Then you will blame the state government and the CM that what they are doing. Then you realize it no, ये बहुत नीचे स्तर पे होना, ये तो municipal MCD का काम है. They are having a budget, more than 100 crore budget is there. Or not for building drains, but for cleaning them. All right, that is the budget that they will have. So therefore there is a lack of, we don't know how that money was spent. There is no clear, and the minute somebody seeks that information, you become an activist. There is a general disdain for activism, isn't it? Objectivity is a part of deontological approach where you identify what is the deontological approach always talks about one best way of doing it, isn't it? So therefore, yes, you could say that most people would say that it is all right. Let us take another. So if you think, see, objective, we have already done compassion. You see that compassion always falls out with law, isn't it? Compassion always falls out with law. We have done compassion where we said that it is the desire to help others followed by an action, isn't it? It is more engaging and more long lasting. It is also, we said that it is not the same as pity, which is a paternalistic feeling with respect to a person that the other person does not deserve it. And we also saw several examples of compassion. For example, Compassionate Cozy Code by Prashant Nair, now disgraced, but by Prashant Nair. Then compassion as a quality which we can, Apostle of compassion would be Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa, apostle of compassion, Saint Mother Teresa, isn't it? If you see, law and compassion often end up being divergent. With respect to law, compassion and law always end up diverging. Why? Because law is about uniform treatment to all. Based on what? Based on rules and regulation. Whereas compassion believes in if you see, compassion therefore falls out with law because it tries to make exceptional treatment based on situation. Compassion calls for exceptional treatment. That there has to be certain exception. You cannot treat everyone the same. So therefore, law and compassion always are conflicted with each other, isn't it? You will see that the law, for example, will talk about, you can say several cases. For example, the case of noted dancer Sudha Chandran, prosthetic leg. She was asked that you remove your prosthetic legs, put it in the scanner so that we can scan you before you onboard a flight. She said, it's a part of my limb. It's not just a metal body, right? I cannot just remove my limb even if it is detected by the metal detectors, even if metal detectors are saying something is wrong with it. But what will the CISF say? It is a part of law. We think there is a suspicion, so therefore you must do it, isn't it? What we are following, we are only following standard operating procedures. Right. Or, for example, the case, the Stafford Unified School case in USA, where a young girl was strip searched in the principal's office. Young girl was strip searched in the principal's office on accusation of carrying drugs. While the SOP of strip searching was good, for those accused of carrying drugs, but the principle of compassion entails, while the SOP, Standard Operating Procedure, or SOP, of strip searching people suspected of carrying drugs is good, compassion entails that young children should not be put through it. It was held by the US judiciary, and they found the school culpable. What will be our position? See, there is also a concept known as, sometimes you will also see that what is the reason behind what is called administrative apathy. Administrative apathy. What is administrative apathy? People are suffering and administrators are not worried. Sometimes the judiciary will pass an order that you are sitting in your ivory tower. You are sitting in administrative apathy when civil servants are sitting in their ivory tower. Everybody understand what is an ivory tower? ऐसे समझ लो बहुत ऊंचा सा टावर है, वहां पर आराम से बैठे और नीचे there is chaos. People are suffering and you are not even aware what is happening. So actually, but one phenomenon is there is a concept known as compassion fatigue. compassion fatigue. What happens? What is the reason that when you may first see a street or an old man begging for alms on the railway station, you may have a certain inclination to help him or give him certain alms, isn't it? But what happens is, if suddenly you see, you may end up giving, but suddenly you see that there is a whole line of people seeking alms, then what happens? You end up giving it to either no one sometimes. Or for example, you try to help a few, but then you see that the size of the problem is so huge that you cannot help all of them, isn't it? So therefore, what happens is, so some people argue that administrative apathy happens because civil servants lack compassion for the poor, or for the poor. But actually that is not the case. The case is that there is the size, compassion fatigue occurs because the size of the problem is so huge, or the people in need of compassionate treatment, people in need of compassionate treatment is so huge that it leads to physical and mental exhaustion. As if there is no more empathy left. Yes. So this is common. If you see, this is very common, for example, in healthcare professionals. You say that doctor, you are saying that my friend is bleeding. The doctor is saying, you are the 1000th patient who is bleeding right now. And your doctor may end up saying, don't worry, he won't die. I will see another patient. Now you are panicked. You say, "Arey bhai, khoon beh raha hai mere sar ka, mere friend." And therefore, he is not concerned. Why? All right, he sees just too many, so therefore there is no compassion left. He is very mechanical in his approach, isn't it? The problem during COVID crisis, so many people dying that healthcare workers were not concerned about who's living and who's dying, isn't it? A compassion fatigue happens. This is also the problem that civil servants face when they see that the number of people in need of compassionate exceptional treatment is so high that they end up feeling that there is no sense of empathy. This is also the challenge when you go to post office because you are in a hurry to do speed post, and the person who's there वो कहता अभी lunch time है. तुम कह रहे हो भैया मेरा urgent है, वो कहता है रोज ही urgent ही रहता है सबका. हाँ, सबका urgent रहता है, रोज urgent रहता है. So therefore you are not able to appreciate his position, and he is not able to appreciate your position, isn't it? However, what is our position? We will say that there is a provision for compassion in law also. There is a provision for compassion in law. Law talks about equal treatment of all, uniformity in treatment, and does not allow for exceptions to anyone, isn't it? That is what law is about. And compassion, the principle of compassion entails what? To go out of one's way to reduce the pain of others. So therefore, inherent conflict between law and compassion. It is the same problem that a law enforcement officer who is tasked with the responsibility of removing night shelters has to face. On one hand is the law which says this is a high court order, and on the other hand there is the element of compassion. So provision for compassion in law is also there. For example, there is the provision of parole to terminally ill patients or even sick patients. Parole is also granted to those with good behavior, isn't it? Then there is, in the Constitution itself, there is pardoning power granted to President and Governor. Then there is compassion, social justice. The whole social justice movement is founded on what? Compassion. Those who are not as well off as us. Founded on compassion. And social and economic justice finds mention where? In the preamble itself. Social and economic justice finds mention in preamble itself. Yes. Then there is directive principles of state policy, enshrined principles of socio-economic, explicit provision of socio-economic justice in the Constitution. What do these principles say? In one way they say, take from the rich and give to the poor. Based on what? Compassion. Then, if you see, there is also the provision of community service. Community service as a punishment. There is also in jurisprudence, the body of judicial knowledge. In jurisprudence, there is acceptance that equality in jurisprudence, in law, there is acceptance. What acceptance is there? That equality does not mean equal treatment of unequals. Equality does not mean unequal treatment of unequals. Then, for example, you can take other examples. Section 7 of Aadhaar Act is there. It provides for few things. That if Section 7 of Aadhaar Act provides if Aadhaar number is not assigned, then if Aadhaar number अगर नहीं है किसी के पास, then alternate means of identification can be used. Then alternate means of identification can be used for giving benefit, social benefits. For giving social benefits. DPSP में है. Free legal aid, the provision of free legal aid to those who cannot afford expensive judicial process. Then you have Juvenile Justice Act, which believes Juvenile Justice Act, which takes a lenient view, a compassionate view. For whom? For juveniles in, or for young people, not adults who are in conflict with law. It takes a compassionate view or not? Though after CRPC amendment and Juvenile Justice Act amendment has happened, compassionate view of juveniles in conflict with law. Okay. After the Nirbhaya case, 16 to 18 adults, there is a separate provision. Those juveniles who are between 16 to 18 years of age, they may be tried as adults if the crime committed is heinous. So that provision is there. But earlier it was complete. Below 18 years means they will not be sent to a prison, they will send to a juvenile rehabilitation. Have you been to any of these centers? So, ये सब चीजें बड़ी important. These are all life experiences. That is why when you fill up your mains form and all, don't write something bogus like, for example, you have a friend or relative who is working in a child reforms house. All right. See, the bureaucracy is based on very objective criteria. They are very grounded in their approach. They are not politicians. They will not say flowery things. That is not what bureaucracy. Bureaucracy is very grounded. कि भाई ये हो सकता और ये नहीं हो सकता. They are not They are not supposed to please people. That's not in their DNA. So what will happen is during the DAF filling, people will write that I have gone to child reforms home. What they have thought is that one of my uncles or somebody is working in that, and therefore I will get a letter also if needed. UPSC does not require you to carry any letter or any certificate from anywhere apart from your 10th mark sheet and your graduation certificate and your Aadhaar card with the CIS will check outside. So now what will happen is very simple question. The bureaucrat who will take your interview will ask, "De gaye the, acha, you went to a child reforms house. So what did you do?" Now you will have a very, Karan Johar, Yash Chopra type idea of how a child reforms house will be there. That children are playing and you're giving them chocolates and cake and you're celebrating. Now what will happen is real child reform home is very different. Why? There is a fear that if you send somebody to a child reform home, he will definitely become a hardened criminal. That is the actual. So what will happen is, for example, in these child reforms houses, who will be inspecting? Not the district collector. He has to ensure that everything is in place, but the inspection will be judged by the members of the judiciary. Now what will happen is that when you will come to know that High Court or Supreme Court judges are, ab kya hoga, Supreme Court judges, suppose in your district, the ancestral house of the one Supreme Court judge is there. So after some time when he becomes a judge, he will say, I will come to and visit my ancestral home. Now to make it official visit, for example, one of the things is that they will say that wahan par there is a child reforms home, so I'd also like to visit it. Achha, now when something like this will be announced, the children who are there, they are growing up, boys and girls. And if they're young or 8 or 9, that's different, but let's say they're 12, 13, 14, 15. They're almost adolescents. They're physically getting stronger every day. Their hormones are of a different level. So what will happen is, that now first you got a letter that His Highness will come and visit your district and visit the temple. So you are nischint. But then soon next letter will come that the juvenile reforms or child reforms center, His Highness would like to visit. And that is their right. The judiciary has a right to visit those, that how is happened. Now what will happen is, you will go one day before. So you will go, तो पता चलेगा कि टीवी तोड़ दिया इन लोगों ने, आपस में लड़ रहे थे and they broke the TV. So now all these teenagers, so what they will do, the minute you will go, they will give you the worst kinds of abuses. And then you will call, there will always be a superintendent there. It will not be a caretaker, it will be a superintendent. So when they start abusing, this person beats them up. Physically will beat them up. After 2 people are fighting, it's your everyday job. First 2 days you will say, beta aise karo, waise karo. Then after some time, what will you do? You will try to rule by fear. Right? You will try to create a fear that the minute you walk in, they don't fight. Now they also know that they will come to know somehow that some judiciary members are coming. So they will, what my experience was, that so one day before if you go, so you say कि भाई go and see that everything is fine or not. तो पता चला अच्छा टीवी टूटा हुआ, ट्यूबलाइट तोड़ दिया. So next day what you will do? You will call the electrician. ये सारा काम करने पड़ते हैं प्रशासन में. You will get a new TV जल्दी, नहीं तो अपने घर का टीवी लगा दोगे और अगले बाद में you will get a new TV. You will do that, but you have to do it before somebody comes. Then you know that उसके साथ you will call the blacksmith कि भाई इसके ऊपर जाली लगाओ, नहीं तो रात भर में इसको भी तोड़ देंगे और बोलेंगे कि 6 साल से टूटा हुआ है. Then you will say कि भाई कल लेकर आए हैं. You and the judge will not listen. He will scold the district collector and everybody like anything, and he is not having that idea sometimes that what is happening behind it. Those worst kinds of abuses will be given to you. You will lose patience. You will ask somebody to control them or you will beat them. Acha. At night they will do self-harm also. Now when the judge will come, their body language will be completely different. They will say कि देखिए सर यहाँ तो बहुत मारते हैं हमको, यहाँ बहुत exploitation होता है. They will beat themselves up. They know that there is not much you can do there. You are living there. So the only source of entertainment is something happens to the superintendent. मजा तुमको कैसे आएगा? Everybody needs some entertainment in life, right? तो कुछ कर दो. So therefore you will see next day everybody is having a lot of self harm. कोई शीशा लेकर, you will make sure कि भाई कहीं कोई शीशा ना रहे, because they will break the glass, they will injure and they will say कि ये हमको है ना शीशे से इन्होंने रात भर ऐसे किया है. Now think of it, a well-meaning superintendent who has to save his job, he's a government employee, whole night, why he will do something like that, especially when a judge is coming, and that a high court or a Supreme Court judge, who will make one observation and his career is over. Right? Government servants have to be accountable to their administrative superiors. Right? So you will see next day somebody has done this, somebody has done that, everybody is having injury. It will look like as if the superintendent is like a Hitler who has no job but to beat up. Sometimes the judges who have risen from the bottom, like who have been a part of district administration, they have been a part of subdivisional judiciary, they will know that this is the reality, but they will be often judges who are born in aristocracies. They are judges because their parents were judges. They have no idea. They will actually believe whatever the child is saying, and they will write an adverse remark both against the superintendent and also against the district collector, that there is no monitoring. Very difficult to explain कि भाई it is not, a child is safest in the company and the custody of his parents. The child is always safe in the custody of his or her parents. No amount of government or private effort can do what a parents, even without means. You may sometimes say that, sir, parents, if they do not have means, even without means, the child is always safe with the parents than anywhere else. So whenever there will be a case like this, there will always be a tendency that the judges will often see if we send him to child reforms home, like he's not like, sometimes when young children, when they commit a crime, one dalil that will be given, one argument that will be given by the advocate is, sir, he's not a hardened criminal, don't send him, you let him go with a warning. Because if you send to child reforms home, then definitely he'll become hardened criminal. वहाँ 6 लोग बैठे पहले से ट्रेनिंग देने के लिए, वो बताएंगे कि ब्लेड कैसे मुंह में रखना है ताकि पता ना चले. And you how to hide a knife so that nobody can detect it. All the trainings will be there. In 6 months you will, then after that you will come out, you will join a gang only. You will not, somebody will say go to school. तुम कहोगे उसके ऊपर का काम करना है मुझे. School तो बाकी लोग जाते हैं, हमारे लिए तो direct काम शुरू है. Right? Big challenges. Right? Then there is in international law also, there is provision for, in international law, there are several conventions, Geneva Convention, or for example, there is principle of non-refoulement. Yes, principle of non-refoulement. What does this principle say? Principle of, yes, that no, that even if illegal refugees cannot be returned to a country, illegal refugees, illegal migrants, not refugees, illegal migrants cannot be returned to a country where they would face, yes, persecution or torture. Every act, if you see, there will be certain exceptions or scope of compassion. For example, manual scavengers rehab. Earlier we had Manual Scavengers Act. Now there is Manual Scavengers Rehabilitation Act. So earlier when the government sitting in Delhi, when it makes a decision, what happened? I still remember, this law was passed, manual scavenging is now illegal in the country. Now who's the biggest violator of the law? One will be the railway, second will be the district administration. Every district administration, they have certain officers who will clean those office toilets and everything, so there is no mechanization, somebody will get inside those pits and will clean it, like it is happening even in the national capital. Every 3rd or 4th day you will see the picture of a manual scavenger, sometimes in Delhi newspaper also. Now what is happening is, the government simply said that, the first time this act came, it simply said that manual scavenging is illegal and they cannot be employed wherever there has to be the picking up of human excreta by way of hands, not allowed. Now what will be the immediate impact of it? The government sitting in Delhi said that we have liberated people from manual scavenging. And in actuality what happens? Suddenly now the district collector said that no manual scavenging will happen, work will not happen. But what will happen? And now suddenly the people are not having jobs. They are already poor. They are extremely poor, which is why they are doing the job. And now they are not even able to get a cleaning job anywhere. पता चला उसकी नौकरी चली गई. He was having a monthly salary for only one purpose, that was doing cleaning work, manual scavenging work. And now that job is gone because the Supreme Court has said manual scavenging should not be done, and the esteemed parliament has passed a law to that effect, and no other provision is there. Now, thousands and thousands of such people simply losing their jobs because their primary job was that, and there is no rehabilitation. So therefore, when this act was further amendment, they made it manual scavenging, rehabilitation and resettlement. Manual scavenging, rehabilitation and resettlement act, which provided for their settling down somewhere and rehabilitation. Yes, right? Then, so what will be our final view? What is important, law or compassion? So you will always say that this is law and this is compassion. Ye le sakte ho. So therefore, what should be our answer in such a case? Compassion or justice? Justice will be done when law is tempered with kindness. This is justice. When justice can be ensured when law is tempered with kindness. Yes. The right to pardoning power. Yes. So there is no limitation on the right to do complete justice. Yes. So that is also there. Yes. But then why I do not see it in because the first time in the past 15 years or so when this Article 142 was invoked, Justice K.G. Justice K.G. Balasubramanian was there, and he invoked the right to. So what had happened in West Bengal, there was certain political killings, and the West Bengal government said that we will do a CID inquiry. Now, Supreme Court said that ordered a CBI inquiry into the case. So what happened is the state government protested that how can a CBI inquiry happen when the state has not asked for it, right? CBI inquiry can be done when the state or state explicit permission is not there, isn't it? So therefore, that is K.G. Balasubramanian. He famously said that Article 140. He said there is, and the state government council argued in the Supreme Court that, sir, there is specific provision. There is specific provision in the DPSE Act, Delhi Police Special Establishments Act, that the state government's consent is important for putting, otherwise central agencies, CBI will go anywhere. So therefore, the Chief Justice, frankly, he made this pronouncement. He said that these limitations of statute are applicable to the executive, but not to the judiciary. And therefore, he gave that very famous statement. He gave that for us, the sky is the limit. That we can do anything in the name of doing not justice, but complete justice. Right? But in effect, there was a lot of criticism of this, that you must do complete justice, but you cannot do something in contravention of established statute. The law says this, therefore you have to go by it. Either you say that it is invalidated, that law is wrong, it is wrong law, and therefore you invalidate it. Or the parliament will repeal that. But you cannot show that this law is applicable to others, but not applicable to the court, judiciary. Either you should have invalidated that part of the law, right? Or you should have waited for the parliament to do it. But you cannot say something like that this law is valid, but not applicable to the judiciary. It is applicable for others. Not a good idea. Okay. Chalo, now let us move to the next topic. That yes, so therefore there are several examples. There are several examples like that. But you say in the case of UPSC, don't do this misadventure. You're aware that rank 2, 3 years back, yes, she could not fill up her choices in time and therefore was allocated. With rank 2, she probably could have gotten either home cadre or a cadre of her choice, but ended up in Kerala cadre because the portal was closed and she did not submit her choices before a time. All right. Chalo. Let us take another value. Integrity. See, integrity is consistency in thought, speech, is a consistency, one's consistency in thought, speech, and actions. Thought, speech, and action. It means that what we think, we are able to speak, and what we are able to speak, we are able to act according to it. Means a person is consistent in his thought, speech, and actions. Integrity entails one abides by the highest. It means abiding by highest moral standards. Our actions and words align with who we really are. Actions and words align with who we really are. Integrity means also doing the right thing when no one is watching. Means doing the right thing when no one is watching. It is different from honesty. Integrity is different from honesty. Integrity is different from honesty. Honesty means truthfulness. Honesty means truthfulness. Honesty, make a table, honesty and integrity. एक table बना लो. Honesty, integrity. Write down on honesty. Honesty comes from truthfulness. Honesty comes from truthfulness. Honesty is the view from outside. Honesty is the view from outside. It is public. It is public. What you see from outside. It is the view from outside. It is public. In honesty, may be truthful, but may not, may be truthful. A person may be truthful and honest, but may not stick to a moral code. May be truthful and honest, but may not stick to a moral code. For example, Yudhishthir. For example, Yudhishthir may have been honest when he said Ashwatthama is dead. May have been honest when he said Ashwatthama is dead. When Bhim named an elephant Ashwatthama and killed it. When Bhim named an elephant Ashwatthama, named an elephant Ashwatthama and killed it. But he lacked integrity. In this case, in integrity you write on the right hand side, integrity. Integrity is private and intimate to oneself. Is private and intimate to oneself. Which is only you know if you have integrity or not. Is private and intimate. Or at least you definitely know. Right? It goes beyond honesty. It goes beyond honesty. It is the view from within. It is the view from within. View from within. It is how we see ourselves. It is how we see ourselves. So just beyond these tables, think of an example. For example, there could be people indulging in illegitimate crimes or illegitimate businesses, doing it with all honesty. If you see the films of 70s, 80s, they will say, they will have something like, Dagar Sahab, hamare dhande mein बेईमानी नहीं, धंधे में बेईमानी नहीं. Why? And हमारे धंधे के कुछ उसूल हैं, right? And what they are doing gold smuggling. They are doing human trafficking. Right? So therefore, there could be criminals doing immoral and illegal acts and yet could be honest in their dealings. We can call them honest in their dealings, but we could not call them having integrity. Isn't it? Honesty does not guarantee integrity. Honesty does not guarantee integrity. Honesty does not guarantee integrity. But integrity ensures honesty. But integrity ensures honesty. If you have integrity, you will be honest. All right, you can think of examples of how people have had maintained their integrity. What have I said in integrity? People are said to have integrity when what they are able to, what they think, what they speak, and what they act is in line, is the same. Is it easy to do? No, it's not easy to do for anyone. Think of familial politics. Whole family will sit, they will say something bad about others. You will go and say, but mom, why don't you say it to him? तो say, अरे छोड़ो चुप रहो बातें खत्म करो. Right? Not easy. You know that if you say something, it will lead to other troubles. And you will go as a rational person, say that, Bandar, why don't you say it directly to him? Why are you saying it to others? Right? Not easy. You may believe in a lot of things, but therefore you may not be able to act as per your conscience for several reasons. Yeah. There will be cases with public servants who are unable to act as per the government directive because it is against their own conscience. Right? So therefore what they think and what they speak, it will be very different, but what they will actually do will be very different. What they'll actually do will be following government orders, but what they think and what they speak will be different as per their conscience. You can think of an example. P.S. Appu, celebrated civil servant. P.S. Appu, when the Bihar Chief Minister refused to promote honest officers in the bureaucracy. Promote honest officers in bureaucracy. He left the chief secretaries. He left the chief secretaries' position in protest. He left the chief secretary's position in protest. See, the chief secretary is the head of the administrative head of the state. In effect, if you see the appointments of all civil servants, that should be approved by the, or in different postings, it should be approved by the Chief Secretary. If you see the Chief Minister, what should he do? He should merely having a steering role and not a driving role. Who should be the driver? The driver is the, think of a Chief Minister and Chief Secretary. The Chief Minister is the one who sits in the rear vehicle of the car. And who's the driver? It is the Chief Secretary. Who's the executive? Actual executive, it is the Chief Secretary. How do things work? If you tell the Chief Secretary or the driver where you have to go, and then you leave it to him how you have to reach there, isn't it? But what happens in effect is, so therefore any postings and transfers that have the approval of the Chief Secretary, because he's the actual head, and it is actually done by the Department of Personnel, which again falls within the purview of the Chief Secretary. There is a separate secretary for it, but all secretaries report to the Chief Secretary. But what will happen is, so Mr. Sri P.F. Sappu, who's the Chief Secretary then, he wanted to bring in more honest and deserving civil servants, their promotion, but when the Chief Minister went for making appointments not on the basis of merit, but on the basis of other affiliations. So therefore he protested, and when he felt that these protests are going in deaf ears, he resigned from the position of, he left the position of Chief Secretary. Right. Yes. Then another example from his life itself is when he was the director of Labasna. When P.S. Sappu was the director of Labasna, he recommended the dismissal of an IPS probationer. He recommended the dismissal of an IPS probationer who had misbehaved. He had recommended the dismissal of an IPS probationer who has misbehaved with his colleagues. Who had misbehaved with his colleagues. But when government took no action, who had misbehaved with his colleagues, but when government took no action, perhaps because the probationer was close to the then Home Minister, took no action, perhaps because the probationer was close to the then Home Minister, he sent his resignation. Perhaps close to the Home Minister, he sent his resignation. This created a furor. In Parliament. This created a furor in Parliament against the Indira Gandhi government. Leading to probationers' dismissal by the then president. Who was the then president? Gyani Jail Singh, then president, isn't it? You have other examples who have acted with integrity. T.N. Session, he did not succumb to any political pressure. As the CEC, Chief Election Commissioner, and set new standards of free and fair elections. You also have the example of Field Marshal Sam Manekshaw. When the Prime Minister asked him, to invade Bangladesh or send forces to Bangladesh, he stuck to his technical advice. Of not sending the army. कौन से मौसम में? Monsoon, during monsoons. He stuck to his technical advice of not sending the army during monsoons. What is the fear in monsoons? बारिश होगी और उसके बाद कैसे क्या होगा? टैंक फंसेगा और सबसे बड़ी दिक्कत जो होगी बांग्लादेश, द डेल्टा. Yes, waterborne disease that will lead to most deaths of your armed persons, and machhar ka problem. All of you have gotten the mail from ForumIAS advisory for this monsoons. You should be getting it anytime. Advisory from Forum that now when you sit in those who are writing the mails, make sure that you are wearing full covered clothes. Don't get a mosquito bite right now. अभी 1 महीने के अंदर डेंगू का खबर आएगा. हाँ, अब शुरू हो जाएगा वो. अब दिल्ली में अलग सिनेमा शुरू होगा अब. हाँ, vector-borne disease will rise, so make sure that you are fully covered. And suddenly you will see mosquitoes will rise right now, daytime. All right. एक दो लाइन लिख लो. नोट, NOT नोट. Integrity alone is not enough. Note, integrity alone is not enough. Public officials must also be efficient. Integrity is not enough. Public officials must also be efficient. Is not enough. Public officials must be efficient. There is a false binary in bureaucracy. There is a false binary in bureaucracy that one can either be honest or efficient. There is a false binary in bureaucratic culture, you can say. In bureaucratic culture, there is a false binary in bureaucratic culture that one can either be honest or efficient, but not both. It is seen that some officials only have integrity. It is seen that some officials only have integrity. They are suspicious of any business activity. They are suspicious of any business activity or any development project. Suspicious of any business activity or any development project. They lack solution-oriented approach. They lack solution-oriented approach and end up stalling, S-T-A-L-L, rok dena. They lack solution-oriented approach and end up stalling. Development works for the fear of, end up stalling development works for the fear of private profiteering or graft. For the fear of private profiteering, किसी को फायदा हो जाएगा इस टेंडर. Private profiteering or graft. That is, however, what is needed is the wisdom. What is needed is the wisdom to know and identify. To know and identify. To know and identify what constitutes public welfare. Know and identify what constitutes public welfare. And safeguard it. And safeguard here and promote it. And promote it. What is needed is, have we written solution-oriented approach in this? All right, and to safeguard it. What is needed is both efficiency and effectiveness. Efficiency and effectiveness in performance of duties. And not integrity alone. And not integrity alone. And not integrity alone. All right. So today we'll wind up at 1:30 itself. And from the next class, all of you bring your ethics book that you have gotten. And we will start seeing some of the questions that are at the end. So we'll start also seeing, because we have covered significant part of the syllabus, we have covered major parts of the syllabus, so therefore we'll start answering question. So here in this, the last paragraph that we dictated, the problem that we is trying to install is, see, a civil servant can either focus on the core aspects of what is expected out of him or what is to be delivered by him. And wisdom constitutes in ignoring the peripheral aspects. But sometimes what happens is, there are civil servants who only possess one quality, that is the quality of integrity. So therefore, they end up being anti-development, because they are perpetually living in one fear that any development work will end up in what? Private profiteering, which will happen. Why will a private enterprise build a road with only one expectation? That is to make certain profit. And there is no, whenever a private enterprise is trying to make legitimate profit, there is nothing wrong with it. But there will be certain cases where certain officials will always be worried about, first is private profiteering, that somebody should not benefit from it. Therefore, they end up what is happening, what is anti-business approach. They'll end up having what is anti-business. That wherever, second is, they will always be afraid of public graft. They'll be worried that somebody in the department will take money, or bribe giving and bribe taking will happen. In the end, what will happen because of these problems? Because of this, wherever, in whatever department they'll be posted, for the duration of their tenure, no contracts will be awarded, no government deliverables targets will be met. All files that will be routed through them will end up with dissenting file notes expressing concerns. What is lacking is, what is needed is not people with only integrity. What is needed is also effectiveness and efficiency, which means that beyond integrity, what should be the expectation from officials is to focus on the deliverables of their departmental targets, that what target was of the department and what they have been able to achieve. So that is what is expected. And second is to focus on the core aspects rather than getting worried about peripheral aspects. So therefore, what is needed is a solution-oriented approach. If there is any fear or concern of private profiteering or public graft, there should be what? What should be done? Framework and guidelines must be made. Framework and guidelines must be made to prevent excessive private profiteering and eliminating scope of public graft. Right? And eliminating scope of public graft. Apart from that, guidelines must be made for ensuring high quality of public goods and service delivery. Ensuring high quality of public goods and service delivery. Right? Now think of it, a few years back, the National Highway Authority, they said that we can take a look from Malaysia and other Southeast nations. So there was a talk of purchasing concrete blocks that would work as divider between this side traffic, the other side, this side, and the other two sides, a divider between the road, right? Now, there were several talks whether what sort of material should be used. In the end, what was technically approved was one material, which was very expensive, and it looked like regular concrete, but when a vehicle would go off the road and hit the divider, it ensured that the vehicle is contained on its lane so that it does not go and hit the vehicles on the other side. Extremely important for road safety on any national highway or expressway. But what will happen is, and that block will cost, it will look like regular concrete, but it will cost much more. So it was costing something around 50 lakh for a certain unit. And what happened is the people who were in charge, they were not, it just hung in the limbo for 2 or 3 years. Why? Because a certain bureaucrat said that there is a chance of graft, we can get regular concrete. अब उसको कौन समझाए कि regular concrete vehicle will hit, it will cross over and it will kill people on the other side of the road. Similarly, then in the Commonwealth Games, there was a presumptive loss and presumptive scams were there. So what had happened is, Delhi government in those days, now since the past 10 years, you do not have any problem of bomb blast and all, right? Those things have stopped happening. But those days, these things were happening. So one concern, so in Delhi, there was a popular culture that there will be no public dustbins in Delhi. What is the reason? Yes, bomb blasts. So that is the primary reason. But during the Commonwealth Games, it was felt that when foreigners will come to our country and they will not find dustbins, then they'll think that there is a problem of sanitation. Right? So therefore, dustbins were purchased. Now, what was the tricky thing? You need to purchase dustbins so that somebody, even if it puts a bomb, then the dustbins are able to withstand a bomb blast, so that they are able to contain it. And in a bomb blast, you have a big fear of sharpenel. What is a sharpenel? But there will be, usme keel rahegi, nails rahenge. So they will spread and they will, basically that is what will, the bomb, technically the bomb part will not come to you. But what will happen is, of moving objects and sharp objects, they penetrate the body. That is what happens. So for that, also there was a proposal that we'll get bomb blast proof dustbins, and they ended up costing a lot. Now those decisions have to be taken swiftly. Right, but think of a civil servant. The proposal is that each dustbin will cost probably 5 lakh or 10 lakh rupees. Think from the public servants. The minute he will sign the file, he will be accused of graft. And CAG will also later, if nobody catches him, then later CAG will say that presumptive loss has happened, 250 rupees mein dabba mil jata hai. Right, so therefore, do you see that how all these things lead to policy paralysis? But anyway, what should be our final position? Our final position is that public servants must not only have integrity, they will also have effectiveness and efficiency at work. All right. Yes. So with respect to it, it is expected that we'll do that. It was expected that while he may not be personally be accountable for graft, आगे है एक टॉपिक, इसमें करेंगे इसको, ठीक है?